Hi guys, I hope you're all doing really well. I'm here today to do a review of this book, which is called Half Bad by Sally Green. Now, I am part of the blog tour for this book, so I've written a review as well, which you can go and check out. I'll leave your link in the description below. But I'm going to do a video review for this book as well, because I really wanted to just tell you all how much I love this book. So I'm going to start off by giving a quick kind of plot overview, and I'm not going to put any spoilers in. I'm just going to give a brief overview of kind of what this book is about. So there are kind of three different strands that run throughout this book, and I'm going to kind of tell you quickly which each of them are. But to start off, this book is set in modern day England, or in modern day United Kingdom, and we are introduced to a character called Nathan, and we learn very quickly that Nathan is a witch. Now, in this society, there are Fanes, which are normal humans who, like all of us, we're just normal humans, we will be Fanes. Then there are the witches, and the Fanes don't know anything about the witches. The witches, don't make themselves known to be witches, basically. And there are black witches and there are white witches. Now, black witches are the evil witches and the witches that, everyone wants to kill, and the white witches are the good, angelic witches who are really nice, apparently, and, are the best witches around. And the white witches are quite powerful, and they have like a council, and they govern over this community of witches. Now, Nathan, who is our protagonist, is a half witch, which means he is half black witch and half white witch. And very quickly we learn that his mother was a white witch and his father was a black witch, but we learn that his father was the blackest black witch of them all. But the thing is that Nathan has three brothers and sisters who are all white witches, completely full-blood white witches. So he realises very quickly that he is the only child that his mum had with Marcus, who is this black witch. So that's kind of the first strand of the story we get, where we want to understand why Marcus and Nathan's mum had a relationship. Was it an affair? Was it was Nathan's mum madly in love with Marcus? That's one thing we want to find out. We want to know why she only had one child with him, and why Nathan is, half, why he is a half-blood, why hasn't he got full blood like his brothers and sisters. So that's kind of the first strand. The second strand is that Nathan, who is a witch, who is a half-black witch and a half-white witch, is getting close to his 17th birthday. And when you become 17 in the witch world, you have to have a giving ceremony, where a member of your family, normally a mother or a father, will give you 3 gifts. And once you've got these 3 gifts, you then are kind of granted a special power, and you have to figure out for yourself what that power is. So, for example, you might be a potion maker, or you might be able to read minds, or you might be able to shapeshift. You might have any kind of power. But if you don't get these powers before you're 17 or on your 17th birthday, then you will die soon afterwards. But because Nathan's mother is dead, Nathan needs to find his father to give him these gifts, because if he doesn't get these gifts, then he will die. So he is determined to go and find his father and to get these gifts that he needs before he turns 17. So that's kind of the second strand of the story, where Nathan goes on this quest to try and find his father, Marcus. Now, the third strand of this story is where the white witches come in, because the white witches don't like black witches, and they want to stop the black witches from spreading around the country. They want to kind of keep them in a concentrated pool of black witches where they know where they are, and slowly kind of destroy them and get rid of them, because they don't want black witches around. So the white witches capture Nathan so that he cannot find Marcus. But the white witches are kind of using Nathan as a tool to lure Marcus as well, because even though they don't want Nathan to find Marcus, they want Marcus to come to Nathan so that they can kill Marcus. But they don't want Nathan to go to Marcus on his own, because then obviously they could form an amazing team together, and it could all end in disaster for the white witches. So that's kind of like the 3 strands of the plot. We've got one where we need to find out why Marcus is Nathan's father, then we've got another one where Nathan needs to find Marcus, and the third one where the white witches are stopping Nathan from finding Marcus. And they're keeping him in a cage, and he's handcuffed in, and he can't really go anywhere. So they're kind of like the 3 main strands of the plot, and then there's some themes that run out as well. We've got the idea that it's kind of a coming-of-age story as well, because we see Nathan grow up very quickly over the course of the book, and not only does he have this trouble to deal with the fact that he's a witch and the fact that people want him dead, he also has to deal with the fact, that he's a man, or he's a teenage man or a young adult man, and he's got, he wants a relationship, he wants to fall in love, he's got feelings for girls, and all of those kinds of confusing things that happen when you are a teenager are happening to Nathan, but just at the same time as he is having to kind of learn to, keep himself alive and have to survive in this environment where he is being hunted and tried to be killed. So that is the kind of like the basic plot in a nutshell, but that's kind of just like, that's what we learn kind of straight in the beginning. There's a lot more that happens throughout, and there's a lot more characters that are introduced, and a lot of different circumstances that arise that cause the characters to kind of have to pull together or come apart and navigate all of these different things that they come across. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the characters. Nathan was an amazing protagonist. He grew so well over the course of the novel. The development he went through was just incredible. He started off... Let me first just say that in the beginning of the book, we start off in the present day, then we go into the past, then we come back to the present. And when we go back in the past, we see him as quite a young boy. We meet him when he's about, I think he's about 8 years old when we first meet him, and we see him grow to like a 16-year-old. And it's really impressive how he develops quickly and how well he develops over that kind of period of time. And when I was reading it, I thought he was developing and he was growing really quickly, and I thought it was quite a fast pace, but that didn't matter because it was so well written that it didn't matter that it happened over a really quick period of time, because we were able to see it all happen and we were able to comprehend what was going on. So that was a really nice way to kind of see Nathan's life and see how he's gone from a young boy not really knowing what's happening to having to grow up really quickly and become this man who is kind of, he is who he is because of his background. He hasn't had the chance to kind of become himself because he's so relied on by the White Witches to be this bad person. He's trying not to fulfill that kind of stereotype that they have for him, and it's kind of, it's a difficult life for him, it really is. The other characters in the book, his brothers and sisters, for example, they don't develop much at all, but that's not kind of an issue because they're not main characters as such. We don't really spend much time with them, which is okay because they're not particularly characters that have a lot to say in the plot. We do spend a bit of time with some other characters who, I'm not going to name them because that would give some spoilers away, but they are characters that some of them are really nasty and you just want to kill them straight away, and some of them are really lovely characters that you just kind of want to hug and be nice to because they're so lovely. Marcus is a character that, even though he's talked about a lot, he's not actually present very much. So even though he's talked about throughout the plot, he's not actually physically there whilst he's being talked about. So that was a strange one because everything that we were learning about Marcus, we were learning through word of mouth. We weren't learning through Nathan's eyes. We were just learning from what Nathan knows about him. So that was a really interesting dynamic because it led me to question whether what we were hearing about Nathan, what we were hearing about Marcus was correct, or whether people were just making him seem worse than he actually was. The book is told from Nathan's point of view. Actually, some of the book is told from Nathan's point of view, a first-person narrative, but some of the book is told in a second-person narrative where the author is addressing you as the reader, which was a really, really powerful way to do it because straight away you just fell straight into the trap of being immersed in this book, and all of a sudden you felt like you were trapped in a cage and you felt like you couldn't go anywhere. And that was a really interesting way for the author to kind of pull the reader into the story and get them totally immersed, so that when she flipped back to first person, you already kind of wanted to know everything that was going to happen. So that was a really strong point of the writer. Whilst I'm talking about the writer as well, I just want to say that she's got a really good voice for this genre. It is a YA fiction. And when it comes to YA fiction, sometimes it's really difficult to kind of pitch it right and get the right level of, not intelligence as such, but sometimes YA can be really quite simple and basic, and sometimes it can be a little bit too complicated. But this book falls kind of perfectly in the middle, where it's not complicated, but it's not simple. It's kind of at that stage where everything that you read, you understand, but it's not the fact that you read it and you understand it and it's quite bland in what you're reading. You're reading it, you're understanding it, and it's rich in description, rich in, perfection, really. And the thing that I really enjoyed about her writing was the descriptions. I just constantly felt like I was there with the characters. I just felt like, I was in the world with them, and that was really impressive because sometimes when you read fantasy books, it's really hard to kind of imagine yourself in those characters' shoes and imagine yourself with the characters. But this was so tangible, just the descriptions were so rich and detailed that I honestly felt like I was there with the characters, and that was such an amazing feeling because it just totally pulled me into the story even more and made me just desperate to keep reading. This book is actually really easy to read. It's a very quick read. I read it in 2 sittings. I would have definitely been able to read it in 1 if I hadn't have had other things to do. But yeah, this is definitely a book you can read in 1 sitting, and even though it's about 415 pages long, or however long it is, oh no, it's not even that long, it's 375 maybe, yeah. Even though it's nearly 400 pages long, it doesn't feel like that when you read it, and there is a reason for that, because some of the pages, for example, let me try and find them. Some of them are kind of like, you've only got, oh no, can you see? I don't think you're going to be able to see. Oh no, it's not going to come up properly. Oh, sorry about that, but like some of the pages have only got like that much writing on them, which is a really small amount. So you kind of can get through it quite quickly. But yeah, I just think this is a really fantastic book, and I have to say, there's 2 other things I want to say. The first one is that when I first heard it was going to be about witches, I was a little bit dubious because I've never read any witch-based fiction before, so I was a little bit worried that I wouldn't enjoy it, but actually I loved it much more than I ever would have imagined I would have. And I think that's the thing, don't judge this book by the subject matter, because if I'd have judged it and said I don't like witches, I don't want to read it, then I would have missed out on this fantastic book. And even if you've read witch fiction before, don't not read this book because of it, because this book takes witch fiction to a whole kind of new level and really takes you into a really awesome world. The world that these characters are in is just fantastic. And also the second thing is that when their books have got a lot of hype as well, I sometimes worry that the hype has just stemmed from people raving about it, and then everyone just kind of jumps on the bandwagon and is like, yeah, I love it too, when actually I haven't read it. But this book does deserve all the hype that it gets, and I think the fact that it's already been sold into like a ridiculous amount of languages already, I think it's like 48 languages it's been translated into, and it's already got a film deal. I think that's just testament to how fantastic this book is and how big it is going to be. This is the first book in a trilogy. I think the trilogy is called the Half-Life trilogy or the Half-Lives trilogy. And I have to say that when this book ended, I was expecting it to end on a really huge cliffhanger, and it did end on a cliffhanger, but not a cliffhanger in the sense that I was tearing my hair out and thinking, oh my god, I cannot live until I've got the next book. But it was a really nice cliffhanger in the sense that it left a lot of questions there, and a lot of kind of, you wanted to know what's going to happen, but you kind of wanted to have the chance to think about it for yourself, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the time when books end on a cliffhanger, it's almost like frustrating because you want to know what's going to happen next. Whereas this one, it ended on a cliffhanger, but it wasn't like I need to know what happens now. It was like, okay, I've got a year to try and work out what I think is happening here, and then you can come up with loads of ideas and you can think about what's going to happen and what the characters are going to do and how they're going to progress through their world and through their lives. So it's really lovely to have that kind of ending to a book. So yeah, that's my review of Half-Bad. I'm sorry if it's not been a very good review, but sometimes when I try and talk about books, I just get a bit too gushy and repeat myself a lot. So I hope this has been an okay review. I have written a review which should hopefully be a bit more coherent, so I will leave that, like I said, down below. But yeah, this is Half-Bad, and this has already been published. I think it was published on the 4th of March, maybe 3rd or 4th of March, so it's quite recent still. So grab yourself a copy, and I promise you will not be let down. So yes, Half-Bad by Sally Green. Definitely read it. Thanks for watching this video, guys. I will see you again very soon. And also, actually, in the comments below, let me know if you've read this book. If you want to read this book, let me know kind of what you think about it, because it'd be awesome to have a chat about it. So yeah, thanks for watching this video, guys. I will see you again very soon. Bye!